And we're starting in Kenya, where Kananu has been sworn in as Nairobi's third and its very first female governor, ending the long wait for a substantive successor for Mike Sonko. Now, Kananu's swearing in has now brought to an end the long wait for a substantive governor in Nairobi that has spanned close to 10 months. Now, the former disaster management and coordination chief officer was given the go-ahead to take the oath of office after the Supreme Court last week struck out an application challenging her swearing in by Mr. Sonko.
Ms. Kananu became Nairobi's county deputy governor in January 15, 2021, and took over as acting governor 3 days later, with Speaker Benson Mutura handing over the reins of power. As governor, Ms. Kananu has promised to follow in the footsteps of Margaret Kenyatta, the first Black African and only woman mayor of Nairobi. I know right now in Nairobi, a lot of people are pretty excited with this, that we're experiencing at this point in time.
First female governor of Nairobi.
Right.
We did talk about it earlier, yes, because Mike Sonko looked like he had challenged her, her stepping in last week. Mike Sonko is the embattled former governor, quite a very popular figure out there, has corruption charges against him, had a very flamboyant lifestyle. But I'm interested to know what people are feeling in Nairobi, especially in Kenya, to have a very first female governor, especially as she comes from the disaster management and coordination office. She was a former officer, the chief of that department. What's she bringing on to the table as Nairobi governor? Those are the big questions this time, because it's big news around Africa.
Yes, it is. And she unveiled a 5-point agenda concerning Nairobi's economic stimulus blueprint. Now, the 41-year-old has pledged to boost early learning and enhance inclusive education. We have Abdinol back on the line. Many thanks for joining us, Abdinol. Now, this is indeed great news for Nairobi, who now has a female governor. But what does this history-making event mean for them as a people, especially for the women and girls?
Good morning to you too, Olu and Oli. Sorry for the connectivity issues earlier on my side. So Her Excellency Governor Kananu Mutende, after several battles at the court filed by the former Nairobi Governor Mike Mbuvi Sonko, who himself brought Her Excellency Governor Ann to the fore as his deputy governor, that was in January 2020, is now making history as this generation's Nairobi's first female governor. And of course, where she was driven to her swearing-in ceremony at the Kenyatta International Convention Center, it was a history-making one.
All right, Abdin, you just talked about antecedents and a relationship still politically, though, with Mike Sonko back in the day. But during her swearing-in speech yesterday, she unveiled a 5-point Nairobi economic stimulus blueprint that she's banking on to improve service delivery as well as the quality of life for Nairobi residents. Now, walk us through some of those points, and how do Nairobians feel about her 5-point agenda?
And her appointment, actually, or even naming her deputy governor Mutungi, just a day after her swearing in, already shows that she is ready to work. And that has been her slogan, as highlighted in her speech. Nairobi has actually been having a number of key challenges, and she says she's ready to work in addressing those challenges. And at the moment, unlike her predecessor, she now meets where the Nairobi Metropolitan Services, led by Major General Badi, has been fulfilling some of the areas that were previously being held by the county government under the Devolution Act of the Kenya Constitution 2010. Her key area has been the economy, which the Nairobi capital, despite being the major hub for the country, it hasn't been a good period, especially looking at the pandemic. And she says that it is her priority. And among the other key areas include hygiene, infrastructure, and ensuring that the city dwellers benefit from the services under her administration.
All right. Now, Abdinol, this is coming at a time when the economy of Nairobi or the economy of Kenya is quite questionable. Now, when she was being brought in, she was brought in 1966 Rolls Royce, which was a ceremonial vehicle that is being used in Nairobi for governors and mayors of the country. But now she talked about trying to improve the educational sector. She plans to employ 219 additional early childhood development and education teachers. Now, we know the story about teachers in Nairobi, Kenya, and how teachers have been trying to leave the country. How well do you think this plan can come to life?
A very good question, especially knowing that the ECD, learning the early childhood development, has been under the county governments, under the devolution, an area where most of the governors are actually using it as part of their re-election, highlighting it as some of their achievements. And of course, she might have a short time to implement that, less than a year, until her predecessor, or whether she will be in the ballot come 2022, or trying to fight to retain her seat. As she had actually reiterated in her speech, education itself has been one of the major challenges in Nairobi, especially looking at the large population in the slums, where the standards of the schools, we've had a case in the last few years where schools were collapsing, some of the structures where the schools are housed being in poor condition, affecting learning of many children. Therefore, it's not whether she's going to do it, but it's about how she's going to deliver it, considering the fact that education is also under the national government. And of course, many parents have really been complaining about the new model of teaching, the BCE, which has made many parents trying to say that it has been really costly, some of the requirements, the materials being required by the schools. So if she gets all the support she needs, especially from the members of the county assembly, the Nairobi Metropolitan Services, the national government, donors like DFID and many others, the European Union, Nairobians expect that she will be able to at least leave some footprints.
All right, Abdi, now before we let you go, you mentioned about, Anne Kananu nominating City Hall Chief of Staff Paul Matungi, who is the deputy governor position, citing his professional qualifications and all. But from a political perspective, which we talked about the other day, what kind of leadership do we expect? And is it more like the handshake party alliance? Politically, where did these two come from? How do we know them?
Wow, it is actually a very, very complicated context, because Nairobi's influence is even beyond the county governments, beyond the county assembly. But Mutungi himself, he used to be a former councillor, so he must be well versed with the city politics, which actually is to blame for some of the wars that have affected the former governor Mike Sonko. So considering also the Nairobi speaker himself, Benson Mutura himself is a former councillor within Nairobi, and we have many former leaders who are elected under the new constitution, because they used to serve under the old one. So politically, this is a strategy to not only convince the county assemblies, but also to earn endorsements from the Nairobi's, I don't want to use the word cartels, but we have the Nairobi influential political system who run the day-to-day operations of the city, because land is a key issue in Nairobi, rent, buildings, infrastructures, the charges from the city, the county, the Nairobi City County. Therefore, we can call it a strategic appointment. But how strategic is this going to sound? Time will tell.
All right, thank you so much, Abdul Aden. Should his name sail through the house, we're wishing them the very best. But thank you once again for coming on the program.
Thank you.
Right, so you're still watching Breakfast Central on News Central. Quite big news in Nairobi, Kenya, where their very, very, very first female governor, Anne Kananu, sworn in yesterday.